The sound of clinking glasses and soft jazz filled the grand ballroom, where chandeliers sparkled like frozen rain and laughter flowed smoother than champagne. In the middle of all that glitter and grace sat a young woman who clearly didn't belong. Her trembling hands, mismatched shoes, and anxious eyes gave her away instantly. Her name was Lila Hartman, a shy intern at a powerful corporate firm, and at that moment, she had no idea that her innocent mistake, sitting at the wrong table, was about to change her entire life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of staying true to your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us of humanity's quiet beauty. Lila had always been the kind of person people overlooked. Quiet, polite, and always trying to stay invisible, she was the intern who fetched coffee and stayed late to fix other people's mistakes. She wasn't from a fancy college or a rich family. Her mother worked as a seamstress, her father had passed away when she was little, and she had earned her internship after sending dozens of handwritten letters to the company. Ardent Holdings, one of the largest conglomerates in the city. She admired their success stories, their innovation, and most of all, their CEO, Ethan Ward, a man known for his cold efficiency and ruthless decisions. Lila didn't know much about him personally, but the employees whispered stories about how heartless he was. A man with no time for mistakes or emotions. That evening, Ardent Holdings was hosting its annual corporate gala, a shimmering event where every executive, investor, and board member attended in their best suits and gowns. Lila had been invited at the last minute because her manager needed someone to help organize documents and handle guest tags. She hadn't even planned to stay long. She'd been told, just drop off the folders, then stand in the corner quietly. But fate had other plans. When she arrived, the crowd was already thick, and her anxiety spiked. The name tags on the tables looked like a confusing puzzle, and before she realized it, she had taken a seat at one of the tables near the stage. She thought it was for junior staff, maybe assistants like her. She clutched her glass of water, her heart pounding as conversations flowed around her. Then, a tall man in a sleek black suit sat down beside her. His presence was commanding, calm yet powerful, the kind that made people straighten their backs unconsciously. Lila didn't recognize him. She had only seen her CEO's photos in magazines, but those pictures never captured his quiet intensity or the sadness that seemed to live behind his gray-blue eyes. So when the man turned toward her and asked if she was enjoying the evening, she blurted out the truth before she could stop herself. Honestly? Not really. I hate these things. They make me feel small. The man's brows lifted in surprise, but he smiled slightly. Small? Yes, she said, nervously twisting her napkin. Everyone here seems perfect, confident, polished, like they were born to belong. People like me, we're just extras in their story. He said nothing for a while, just listened, and that made her talk more. She told him about her long hours, her small apartment, how her manager always ignored her ideas, and how she sometimes wondered if the CEO even cared about the people at the bottom. He's probably one of those rich types who think interns are invisible, she said softly. I bet he wouldn't even notice if we vanished tomorrow. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then the man chuckled lightly, not mockingly, but thoughtfully, as if her words had brushed against something deep inside him. Maybe he's not as heartless as you think, he said quietly. Maybe he just forgot what it's like to feel small. Lila blushed, realizing she'd probably said too much. Sorry, she mumbled. I shouldn't complain. I'm lucky to even be here. You should never apologize for being honest, he replied gently. People like you remind others what matters. Then the host took the stage and announced the guest of honor. Mr. Ethan Ward, CEO of Ardent Holdings. The spotlight turned toward the very table Lila sat at. The tall man beside her rose to his feet, buttoned his jacket, and smiled. That calm, powerful smile she'd seen in magazines. The world seemed to stop. Lila's breath caught in her throat. Her hands went cold. The man she had just complained about, the man she'd unknowingly criticized to his face, was him. Ethan Ward, her CEO. Her mind went blank, her stomach twisted, and her heart felt like it would burst out of her chest. She wanted to vanish, but instead, she sat frozen while he walked to the podium. His speech was steady, commanding, full of gratitude for the company's growth and the people behind it. But Lila couldn't hear a word. She just replayed everything she'd said earlier in horror. When he returned to his seat, he looked at her. Not angrily, not coldly, but with a glimmer of curiosity. "Don't worry," he said quietly as if reading her panic. "Your honesty was refreshing. Most people never tell me the truth." That night, Lila left the gala early, convinced she'd lose her internship. She cried all the way home, embarrassed and terrified. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. Instead of a termination letter, she received an email from Ethan Ward's personal assistant asking her to attend a meeting in his office. Her hands shook as she stepped inside the CEO's sleek, glass-walled office. He was standing by the window, looking out at the skyline, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Miss Hartman," he said without turning around, "you have quite the courage to speak your mind. Tell me, do you really think I don't care about my interns?" She wanted to sink into the floor. "Sir, I didn't mean to—" But he turned and waved a hand. "Relax, I'm not here to fire. In fact, I think I've been blind to how people at your level experience this company. You made me realize that." From that day, everything began to shift. Ethan asked her to sit in on meetings, just to observe, he'd said, but often he'd turn to her and ask, "What do you think, Miss Hartman?" At first she stammered, unsure of herself, but gradually her confidence grew. Her insights surprised everyone, including him. She saw details others missed, she cared about the human side of every business plan, and she spoke with quiet sincerity that couldn't be faked. Weeks turned into months. People began to notice her. But what surprised Lila most was Ethan himself. Behind his powerful exterior was a man weighed down by loneliness. He had built an empire but lost touch with people. He stayed late at the office not because of ambition, but because he had no one waiting for him at home. One evening she found him sitting in his office in the dark, staring at an old photo of his family. She hesitated but softly said, "You work too hard, Mr. Ward." He smiled faintly. "That's what people say when they mean you're running from something." Maybe they're right. That night they talked, not as CEO and intern, but as two lonely souls searching for purpose. He told her how he'd started from nothing, how success came at the cost of peace, and how somewhere along the way he'd stopped seeing faces, just results. Lila listened, her heart aching for him. "Maybe," she said quietly, "you just need to start seeing people again." Over the following months, Ethan changed, slowly, subtly, but undeniably. He introduced new internship programs, paid attention to staff concerns, and began walking through the lower floors, something he'd never done before. And every time his employees smiled, he thought of the shy intern who'd accidentally sat at his table and reminded him of what it meant to care. For Lila, the experience transformed her too. She learned that even the smallest voice could make an impact when it spoke truth with kindness. She stopped hiding in corners, stopped doubting her worth. She was still quiet, but now her silence carried strength. One morning, Ethan called her into his office again. "You're finishing your internship soon," he said, "and I'd like you to stay, not as an intern, but as a full-time member of our strategy team." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep reminding me to see people," he replied with a smile. That was the beginning of a new chapter for both of them. Under Ethan's mentorship, Lila grew into a confident, compassionate leader, one who balanced ambition with empathy. Years later, she would become one of the youngest directors at Ardent Holdings, but she never forgot that first night, the trembling intern, the wrong table, and the unexpected conversation that changed everything. At the company's next gala, she sat beside Ethan again. This time, he looked at her with quiet pride. The lights shimmered, the music swelled, and Lila realized something profound. Sometimes, life's most extraordinary moments begin with a simple mistake. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep sharing stories that remind the world that kindness still matters, that honesty can change lives, and that even the smallest voice can make a difference. Tell us in the comments, have you ever made a mistake that led to something unexpectedly beautiful? We'd love to hear your story. As the night drew to a close, Ethan raised his glass toward her and said softly, to the intern who reminded me to see people again. And as the room filled with applause, Lila smiled, because sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about power at all. They're about humanity, courage, and the quiet grace of second chances.